Tissue culture is basically when you do normal clones, you take a growing part of the plant and you clone that, whereas Mericloning is a little bit different. It's taking active plant tissue and getting it to multiply and divide itself. So it's kind of like cloning but on a much more minute level. This way you're able to produce millions of plants from one active part of plant tissue, which is quite amazing really. And you can just continuously divide it into more and more pieces as it grows, each piece becoming more and more plants. It does need to be kept moving though, which is the thing, because if you let it sit stagnant, the roots will continue to grow down, because they know that's the way to grow down to grow like a new plant. But by keeping it moving, it never knows which way's up and which way's down, so it just continues to just expand itself rather than actually growing into a plant. There's a little bit writing here. I do apologise, it might be a little bit hard to see. So I've basically just talked about this anyway. It's talking about just normal cloning methods on normal plants compared to Mericloning. Plants naturally clone themselves where they grow what's called a kaiki, which is Hawaiian, I believe, for baby. And that's just where a plant just naturally starts to grow a new plant off of the main plant, which you leave on until it puts its own roots out, and then you can break that off and repot it on its own. But you do need to make sure that it is developed enough to be able to support its own, otherwise it won't make it. So protocorm is the early stage of an orchid before it sets its roots. So that's where I was talking about keeping things in motion so it doesn't get a chance to set its roots. They are grown in agar as opposed to a normal seed which is just sown into dirt. The reason for this is that most seeds have their own nutrient source that gives them a good start to life, whereas your normal orchids don't. And they usually in the wild rely on a fungus which provides it all its nutrients, whereas we don't have that fungus. So we mix up an agar mix with lots of nutrients and things in them so that they can get a good start to life. This is just a little video of some protocorms that have been growing for a while, that are just getting divided up into more pieces. And putting it into a solution to keep them going, and then they will just continue to grow and divide and grow and divide and grow and divide, and can just be done forever essentially. These are just a couple of different agitators that are available, so that's just what keeps things in motion. Obviously there's all sorts of other different methods as well, but this is a commercial method anyway. These are some other commercial agitators. So you've got the roller one where the test tube basically sits and spins, and then you've got the big fan type one which turns around and keeps everything in motion. Then you've got some nice cheap DIY ones made out of an old CD drive. So basically the CD drive just opens and ejects non-stop. Right, seed versus Mericloning. Lots of people grow from seed and lots of people will grow from clone. It just depends on pros and cons of different methods. The benefit of seed is that you've always got different genetics from the mother and the father plant, and so every seed can always end up having slightly different genetics and can have slight different appearances and things. So it does keep things interesting by growing from seed. Compared to when you Mericlone as well, every plant's going to be identical. There's two different methods of seeds to be sown. You can either do it from a green pot or a dry pot. Obviously you're going to need flasks and bungs and some sterilising agents like bleach, nets and rubbing alcohol, and some sort of laminar cabinet or glove box to make sure that you do have a good sterile environment, because if any bacteria comes into contact with your agar media, everything goes pretty bad. Get all sorts of weird fluff growing, weird colours, and yeah, it needs to be very sterile. Pollination is always an interesting thing. Like most of you will be aware, lots of plants have specific pollinators, so they often emit certain pheromones that attract that particular species of insect. Lots of them will actually flower like a week before the females of that species go into season, so that they get maximum chance of being pollinated. Also compared to normal plants where they have millions of pollen spores which just go everywhere, orchids have a big lump of pollen as opposed to lots of million loose pieces. That way they maximise their chance of getting a good amount of seed produced. This is just a wee clip from a David Attenborough part on the BBC documentary about the Opry's orchid, which are the masters of mimicry. I just found this absolutely fascinating when I first saw it, just the way that they're able to attract their insects. So yeah, I find that very fascinating that they're able to actually produce the same pheromones that the females produce to attract their mates. I wonder what those poor bugs think when they get stuck with a pollinia stuck on their head and have to just continue on. Obviously, we don't always have the insects needed if we are planning on pollinating our orchids, so we do rely on manual pollination, which is actually surprisingly easy once you know what you're doing. Orchids are one of the few, or actually the only flower species where the male and female parts of the flower are fused into one, which is what's known as the column. So you can hopefully see there all the intricate inner workings of it. The pollinia always has a little cap that just protects it, and it's nice and sticky on the back side of that, which is how it sticks onto the insect's head. So we can manipulate that with something like a toothpick or some fine-tipped implement, and it quite easily just sticks on and can be placed onto the female part, which is a little opening in behind there, which is also very sticky, so often the pollinia will just stick in nice and easy. The benefits of Mericlones is that every plant will be identical to the parent plant. Obviously you will always occasionally get that 1% that might not work out the same, but generally speaking they're always identical. Once you've got your initial Mericlone going, you can essentially make millions of identical plants, and it is also a shorter time until flowering plant size is achieved. I've kind of talked about this a little bit already, having a nice sterile environment for working, because if any bacteria gets in there, it all goes downhill very quickly. Everything gets infected and grows fluff and no plants make it. So it's often a good idea to always use a few different flasks of the same parent plant, so that way if one does go bad, you potentially still have another one on the go. Some of the commercial cabinets that are used can look a bit like this. They basically work by having a small opening at the front, at the bottom lower level, with a big fan that pumps in sterile air. The more air coming in, then what can come out, so that nothing can essentially get into it. That way you can sterilise your workspace and wear gloves and make sure everything's sterile going in, and then you're in a nice sterile environment to do your work. There's different types, different methods. All of the commercial ones are extremely expensive, so you can often make your own out of different vacuum cleaner filters and things like that as well. This is just a little diagram on how the unit works, where it sucks air in from the top through the filter and it comes out through the safety glass. Obviously the safety glass should be away from where you're breathing and potentially sneezing or what have you. This is my own personal glove box that I made for my work that I'm doing. It's basically a fish tank that I built for about $10 with a piece of perspex over the front, cut out with gloves that fit inside. So I just open it, put in what I need, wipe it all down with wiping alcohol and bleach solution, and then do my work there. And a picture of it closer up. And I, of course, just had to sneak in a few little pictures of my own as well, just to show you guys. This is my area that I have at home. It's all inside in a box window. I have it all under artificial lighting, so it doesn't get too much light. I've got them on heat pads with humidity trays, just with aquarium gravel, and that just keeps the humidity nice and high. And then I've got some of my cool growing orchids in a different area, which is also under light, because I am a bit limited as to where I can have them. And I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions or anything?
Something about ordinary cloning.
Ordinary cloning,
Opposed to...
yeah, so ordinary cloning, say if you wanted to take a clone of a tomato plant, you take where a node grows a new shoot, you would cut that node out and you remove the two lower leaves, and then that's where the new roots would grow from. So you're basically taking a part of plant and producing it into its own new plant. Whereas orchids don't really grow in the same way. They don't really get the side shoots growing out that can be cloned quite so easily. So you are a bit limited as to whether you let it naturally grow a kaki that can be removed and grown that way, or whether you did seed, or whether you did the Mericlone method. You can't really use the traditional cloning style.
You can use any part of the plant to start the Mericlone off?
Mericlone would generally come from, say with this Invidium where you've got your main pseudo-bulb, when you start to see a new growth coming out of the base, you would cut that piece out and you'd sort of open it, so to speak, and find the little cell inside, which is the main growth part. So that always, as well, has to be done sterile, and you'll need to keep everything sterile. So there is quite a bit to it. It's not as simple as just throwing things together, and it does need to be done very, very sterile in a good agar solution, because of course it's got no nutrient source or anything as well.
Have you had a lot of success doing this so far?
My first batch of protoforms I did, I had one flask survive out of, I think I did 6. So I then got some proper bungs and sterilised everything a little bit differently and did some green seed pod. And so far those all seem okay, but they have only been in for about a week. So it's still too early to guarantee that they're okay, but it's looking pretty good at the moment.
So with your little cabinet you're using, have you just got the glove sort of stuck in a hole in the...
Yeah, so they just
put your hand
taped
in?
in. Yeah, I have seen another method where someone got some of the 10mm gutter pipe and glued that in so that the gloves can sort of go over top of there, so it makes it much easier to get your hands in and out. So as I've seen with just sticking them in, your hands coming in and out, a little bit of a finicky business to keep your fingers in the glove holes. And
Why do you need to mention the cool growing science? What temperature is that?
So that's basically, being that it's indoors, it will be warmer than what it would be outside. But from where my main grow window is, being on the heat pads, some of my masdevallias and those sorts of ones have been feeling a bit on the hot days when it's been getting close to about 40 degrees in the window box. Some of them have started dropping leaves and things, so I've moved them out into the cool area, and they seem to be perking up a bit.
So what is the cooler temperature?
Temperature-wise, it probably gets down to about 12 degrees at this time of year, and then on hot days it can get up to about 25. But yeah, it's definitely a lot cooler than what my main window box is.
How to grow lights you just get from hydroponics